All right, we have the white pieces. What should we do? Keep in mind, guys, we're playing a GM. All right, I'm going to start with d4, and we'll see what happens. d5, what should we play? What do we like? All right, we'll keep it classy, keep it consistent. Queen's Gambit, fantastic opening. One of the most common, most popular. Let's go with c4. All right, and what do you know? We can already talk about something which I consider to be a massive mistake. It really is. The number one thing that black needs to do in this position is defend the pawn. Yes, you can play this, but at the lower levels, I wouldn't recommend giving away your center like that. Defend your pawn. You need a pawn in the center. You need to control the center. So our opponent played knight f6. Yes, it guards the pawn, but it doesn't guard a pawn with a pawn. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take. And now tell me what you're going to do. Because if you take with the queen, I'll walk out and attack your queen with my knight. If you take with the knight, why am I the one who gets this beautiful privilege to have the entire center and with tempo? Right? This is already a fantastic, small, but very noticeable advantage for the white pieces. This is precisely why you need to defend d5 with a pawn. You can't let me have that whole center for free. And I think the way that I play the game from here will not surprise you, right? Like, if you guys want to even shout out 5 moves that you think my next 5 moves will be, doesn't have to be in order, just like, where are my pieces going to go? Because you're probably going to be right. It's not that hard to play this position. You got a big old center. I mean, where do our pieces go? It really shouldn't be that hard to spit out like 5 very reasonable moves. Yes, knight f3. Yes, knight c3. Bishop c4, I would personally say no. Just me. More of a personal preference thing. 1, 2. Maybe bishop d3. Maybe castling. Right? And then maybe bishop f4. Sure. Right? Why the heck not? Okay, well, let's put some of them on the board, right? Let's go. Just put them out there. Holy smokes. Now, that move prevents me from putting my knight there. Absolutely. But it's not a good move. Right? Moving your pawn like that, oh boy, that is a serious mistake. Am I gonna go insane trying to punish this right now? No, I'm not. I'm just gonna continue developing. I'm not gonna, I know this is a mistake, I know this is a weakness, but it's not the type of thing that I can just like checkmate him all of a sudden. Right? I know that it's a problem. I'll deal with it in time. Okay, bishop to g4. Pinning my knight. If he takes, I want to take back with the queen. Then his queen would be able to take my pawn. So let's just make a very basic move. Bishop e2. Get out of the pin. Nice and simple. I don't want to overthink it here. If he takes, now I take here, and my queen still guards my pawn. Right? The reason I'm using this bishop instead of maybe playing bishop e3 is because of 2 reasons. Number 1, I'm not interested in dealing with this being a pin anymore. Playing bishop e3, yes, it guards the pawn, but I'm still pinned. I don't like that. I like the flexibility of being able to move my knight if necessary. Second reason, the most important thing to do in a game, especially when you're getting started, is to castle. So yes, bishop e3, great, but in general, you want to be developing your kingside pieces because you want to get castled. That's the holy grail. So let's get castled. Not going to prolong it any longer. Think of it this way. Bishop e3 guards my pawn. But if my pawn is protected down the line, depending on what he does, it's possible that this bishop might want to go to f4. But down the line, is it possible that this bishop would go to d3? I would say much less of a chance. Because now my d-pawn would be not defended by my queen. I would still be pinned here. So it's more likely that this bishop belongs on that square than this bishop belongs on that square. So I'm going to make the move that I know is going to be my move in almost 100% of my positions. Because now I still have the flexibility to put this bishop on a different square. Whereas this bishop was never really going to go to a different square. It was always going to go here. So why not make the move that I'm sure of? Now, bishop b4. What's the main difference between this game and the previous game? My pawns are not on b3 and g3. Also, this is not pinned to my king, and this is not pinned to my queen. So these bishop moves are much less effective than my bishops, let's say, in the last game. I think it was a couple games ago that we looked at, right? h3. What a beautiful habitual move, right? Just ask the bishop what it's doing. If you want to take me, go ahead. I'd love to just clarify that. There we go. Just clarify that. Okay, I just want to know. And you've taken me here. I was maybe even going to ask you over here what you're doing. But the fact is, when someone plays bishop b4 and pins your knight to nothing, never bother kicking them out with a3. I wouldn't say never, maybe that's a strong word, but guess what? If someone is doing that, their plan is to take you. So just operate around it. Play bishop there, play rook c1, play queen b3, develop your pieces. Don't waste time doing this because guess what? They're already planning to take you. If they don't take you, then what the hell was the point of their move? It makes no sense. So we're gonna leave that there. He ends up taking us voluntarily. Now I don't even have to waste time playing that move. Knight on b6, knight on g6, knight on g3, knight on b3. What is the most effective way to play against those pieces? Most effective way. Always push your h or a pawn. Always. So when I see the knights there, if I saw a knight here, I'd be playing g3, h4, h5. When I see this knight, I want to play a4, a5. Boot the knight out. Then the knight's going to have to go where? Somewhere back here. Then I can go queen b3 and I'll be attacking some serious pawns. A lot of people are suggesting bishop a3. I hate it. Why do I hate it? Because my pawn is not in front yet. It will always feel, it'll just give you that sense of comfort. When you play bishop a3 and your pawn's in front of the bishop, your world's your oyster. You can play a5. Your pawn has some actual intentions. But if you play bishop a3, yeah, the rook will move. What's your next idea? You play queen b3, he guards the pawn. I'd rather have my pawn here, so I'm actually threatening something like a5. So a4 to me, automatic move. I'm not thinking about e5 to hit that. Not yet. Not yet. I want to bounce these knights around. a4 is very effective at doing that. And people don't even understand that you're about to make a very serious threat when you start pushing these pawns. So for example, in this position, I'm already seeing a5 and queen b3. This bishop, I'm not committing yet. I don't know where we want to put it. Maybe here, but probably here. But I'm not rushing. For now, queen b3 hits this pawn. Right? Queen b3 also hits that pawn. Because my next idea is going to be a5. So the question is just the order. Do I play a5, knight c4, and then queen b3? Or do I play it the other way and go queen b3, hit the pawn, and then go a5 to hit that pawn? Honestly, both are, very, very strong. Very, very strong. But which one, looks like it does more damage? For me, I'm kind of looking at a5 first. It might transpose 100%. It really might. If I go here, you know, it might just transpose, because if I go a5 or queen b3, my opponent could reply queen e7 and then play knight d7 after a5. And it'll be the exact same. It really will. This move does not allow knight c4. So actually, queen b3 makes a little more sense because it just restricts my opponent's options. But the fact of the matter is, after knight c4, queen b3, there's an important move that you need to see there that just kills it. That just makes you realize, there's a certain move that just basically refutes the entire line. a5, knight here, queen b3, and it's not knight takes a5 from c4, because then maybe I would take here, but knight takes a5 from c6. Now the knight's protected, and everything's bad there. So we definitely want to start with this move first, hit that pawn, stop knight c4, and then go a5. But these were my two moves no matter what. I just had to figure out the order to do them in. Important to remember that I'm not in any rush to move this bishop. Like, guys, this bishop can develop anytime. It's on a great diagonal at the moment. It's actually contributing a lot without even moving. Queen e7. Wait a minute. Did we just benefit from not rushing to move our bishop? And now by moving the bishop, it's actually a lot better because we had the patience and instead did these moves instead. Oh yeah, that's right, we are. That's right, now bishop a3 looks a hell of a lot better, doesn't it? Yeah, that's right. Notice how these knights just do not have any contribution to the center of the board remotely. Nothing. Truly. The pawn structure is so solid. The bishops rule the board. We get some material here. And after queen b3, we also continue our plan. a5. Do not let that knight sit on b6. I can't stress enough. When you see a knight here, when you see a knight here, doesn't matter which side of the board, which color you are, it's usually a very good idea to consider moving a pawn. Now, moving a pawn h4, h5 needs more consideration because it's in front of your king usually. But playing a4, a5 against the knight here, nearly automatic. Same for black, a5, a4 with a knight on b3. Knight goes back, well guess what? It's time to gobble this pawn. Hitting the knight, hitting that pawn as well once the knight moves. These knights have no squares to move to. Every single square is covered, right? Look at this knight. Covered, covered. It can go to b8. Congratulations, right? This knight, no, all covered. It could go to d8, b8, and e7. Congrats. After knight e7, can't even go to d5 or f5. If the knight went to g6, quite honestly, what would I do? I would literally play the move g3, restrict those two squares, and then probably play the move h4 and play h5 and not even let the knight exist on g6. The exact same thing I did over here. And the knights would just be dominated. Obviously, rook to b8 here is a blunder. Just going to take a free knight. Rook b2. I'm just going to keep it really simple. Just, you know, take, right? Everything on the queen side. I'm interested in trading pieces. A rook trade, of course, benefits me tremendously. Rook there. We're just going to keep gobbling. And again, not going to overthink it here. You got to pass pawn, push him, baby. Once again, a very common theme with my opponents here. I mean, I'm sitting here explaining some concepts, so definitely I'm maybe taking more time than I need. And let's make something clear. I could make every move in less than 2 seconds and, you know, win very easily. But why are my opponents always the ones sitting at 15 minutes? That's never changing. It's like, why am I the one at 7 minutes? My opponent's at 15. Use your time. People don't use their time. Just think. I promise you, every single person that I play here would be a stronger player if they thought, like, if they gave it a little calculation. I'm sure we would see higher quality moves. There's no debate about that. They're thinking on my time. They might be thinking on my time, but the problem is there's no way that they're seeing the moves that I'm playing. So you're right, they're probably thinking on my time, but they're not thinking about the right stuff. There's no way. They're thinking about the lyrics to the latest AI Drake song. Let's take this. That's a queen trade. And then we'll take the knight afterwards. Did we just get linked to a resignation article? Oh my goodness. I think that might have been for my opponent. Got auto-linked to a resignation article. It's like, we here at chess.com believe that game should have been resigned by your opponent 5 to 10 moves ago. Call your local helpline if you're seeing someone in need that needs to resign a game and just isn't pulling the trigger. Thank you, chess.com. Always looking out for us. No, but really, like, what happened here? We played d4, we played c4. Okay, I get it. Takes, we want to play e4. Okay, this right here is... This is theory. This is a real opening you can play. It's called the Queen's Gambit Accepted. Right? Black could play knight there. Okay? Now, what my opponent did was play knight here. So now, after this, let's just say my opponent played knight back. Do you see how this is the exact same position? But what's the difference? What's the difference between this position with my move, white to move, and this position? It's my move in both cases. The knight's there in both cases. My pawns are here in both cases. It's just no pawn. It's already gone. The pawn on c4 has just disappeared. This is so much better for me because it's just not there. Of course, this is like a massive advantage that I don't have to worry about that c-pawn. So when you're playing the Queen's Gambit as black, it's imperative that you keep a pawn in the center. Play e6. Look at the difference in how, like, if I take whatever, I can't play e4. I can't own the center. Black has just as much stake to the center as white. We both have a center pawn. We both control a square. As soon as you play this, if I take, you take with the queen, I go here. You move your queen, I go e4. Already bad news. You go here, I go e4. Let's follow the game, right? Knight b6, knight f3, f6, another bad move, knight c3. How easy is white's position? I'm playing chess the way they like draw it up in a children's book, right? They're like, oh, get your pawns here, get your knights here. This is like a sketchbook of where to put your pieces. Nice simple development, not overreacting. Habits h3. He voluntarily did this, and all of a sudden I was thrown into this position. And certainly here, I would say is the moment where a lot of us might differ in terms of how we continue. Right? So the best move by far, in my opinion, is a4. Stay flexible with your bishop. Bishop a3 is a good move, but considerably worse than a4. The rook just moves here. And now what? You know, you play queen b3. Great, it's already defended. Black's coming with the knight. Maybe knight a5, knight c4. The bishop is not doing enough. We need a4. Do not let that knight get comfortable. If you play a4 and black plays a5, now play the exact same way as you just did. But the inclusion of this move and this move really benefits white. For example, queen b3. Okay, black's going to defend it. Let's say they don't blunder again. Yeah, queen e7 would be a blunder, once again. Let's say rook e8. Bishop a3. Knight c6. But guess what? There's no knight a5 now. This knight is a little bit weaker. There's no pawn guarding it. So that means this guy, there's no c6 or c5 that can happen. It's tied to the knight. The knight can't move because of the pawn. There's no knight a5 to control the c4 square. Right? I can play queen b5. Put pressure everywhere. There's no a6 to kick me out. And at this point, I would just bring my rooks to the center and maybe look to, you know, push some pawns or something. But white just has an overwhelming position. The inclusion of a4 and a5 is in my favor. Benefits me. If he doesn't do anything about it, then the move a5 will happen, and he's just dead. I want to talk about what would happen if this was played. Knight there. In this position, of course, queen takes here is a phenomenal move. But I tell you what I really might play here, is I really might play g3. And in my opinion, g3 is the strongest move in the position. Look at these knights. They have nowhere to go. After g3, let's just say random move, I might consider h4. Now, of course, there's other things for me to do, like go take this pawn and I'm up a rook, I can, or I'm up the exchange rather, and many pawns, I can win easily. But h4. This is the exact same idea as a4, a5. h4, h5. Kick the knight out again, and the knight it just doesn't get to play the game. Certainly not the way he wants to. You see knights on these squares, you push, you push, you push. It's just what you do. Not every single time is it going to be the best idea. And as I said, be more careful pushing your h-pawns because it's in front of your king, usually. So it may also come with some weaknesses. But there are so many examples of that. I mean, one of the most common is like, take a French position. What's the move here? It's h4. It might be more obvious here because we have a threat behind it, but the idea is h4. And if h5 gets played, as it's the best move here actually, the queen moves, and this knight is a little bit weaker. Now bishop d3 comes with a serious threat. This pawn is actually a target for white now. I can maybe play queen here and bishop e2 and take it. So just playing h4 when you see the knight there that's just what you do. Always. Have you guys ever seen Carl Kong? Right? You see something like this. I don't know, maybe like knight here, and you know, main line would be knight takes knight. White might play knight g3 and d4. One of the best moves after knight g3 is h5. Really. Like I think it's the best move, basically. Because the prospect of dealing with h4 is so annoying. You can't put your knight anywhere. What, are you going to go back to e2? You're blocking all your pieces. It's just uncomfortable. So yes, you're going to play h4 to defend that. But then all of a sudden, black goes bishop g4, and you don't have h3 to kick the bishop out. Black gets all these benefits just because he compels you to play the move h4. It's not a move you want to play. But h5 for black is not that bad, because there's a knight on g3. Black can play the move g6, which usually follows a great h-pawn push. And what does g6 do? It covers all the squares the knight could go to. So pawns on g6 dominate knights on g3, and vice versa, of course. Pawn on b6 dominates a knight there. So one of the best structures you could have for knights on these squares is, of course, you know, your pawn pushed up, And then maybe this pawn to follow. It just dominates all the possible squares the knight could go to. It's really uncomfortable. Usually when that happens, you need to completely reroute your knight. Like, your knight just can't exist on those squares. It does nothing. It contributes nothing.